Intro. Okay, now I'm gonna just. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to LifeShot podcast. Again, I got George O'Farrell, and George, I was looking to when you were last on the show, and it was last year sometime. I can't remember exactly when, but welcome back to the show.
Yeah, no, it's great to be back. I remember last year it was around the same time of year. I remember because it was pretty freezing as well at that point.
Oh, was it cold? Yeah, we were probably going into autumn.
That came up on my Facebook memories because obviously you posted a picture of it. I posted a picture of it. Yeah, it was around similar time.
Cool. All right, so we are live. I'm just checking it out now.
Nice.
And so this is what I want to speak about today, George, and his sister. You know, I'm coaching two people at the moment with my health coaching, and I know that you do something very similar, and it's around weight loss. And I think just psychologically at the moment, as I'm 44 now, actually, just had a birthday in November, and as I'm getting a little bit older, and I've always been the same weight, pretty much 68, 69 kgs. I am doing some more intense body work now, so I'm eating a bit more, getting a bit bigger. So I'm like 70 kgs now, and I can see the weight starting, but again, there's a little bit of something down here, and just psychologically, I can almost put myself into the shoes of someone who maybe has got a bit of a podge stomach as a man, right? And thinking how that actually does psychologically affect you, like thinking, geez, you know what, I wish I could get rid of this. And I think there's a lot of guys out there, maybe they don't always say it, but they have this niggling thing in the background, like, I wish I could just lose this. I wish I could just lose this. So maybe today we could talk about ways in which we could, just chat and advise people on, what do you think is the best way to do this? So where would you start with someone? Let's say someone is coming to you and saying, look, all I want to do is get rid of this down here, this extra tire. Where do you start? What's the starting point?
Starting point is always to get an understanding of what they're actually eating, because most people think they eat a small quantity of food when in reality their calories are always a lot higher than what they actually think. So I'll always get them to send me across sort of a food diary, even if they're not tracking on MyFitnessPal, literally just a diary of what they eat throughout the day. And I'll obviously sit down, calculate sort of where their sort of food's sitting, how many calories they're eating, what potentially sort of they're sort of under eating. Generally it's protein, generally it's sort of a few sort of vitamins and minerals. So we'll look at sort of putting some things in place to improve that. But generally for most people, it just comes down to having a little bit more sort of awareness and actually a clarity of what they're eating, so that they can actually eat more specific sort of targets, because you don't need to exclude the foods you enjoy. You can still eat the foods you love, but it literally comes down to having a little bit more sort of awareness of how much you're actually eating.
So that reminds me of two things. So food journaling.
Yeah.
I read something before. Look at my Christmas tree, by the way. This guy. I read something before that if you just simply write down what you've eaten for every meal, you actually start to lose weight. It's weird, right? You think, well, how can just writing down what I eat over a week make me lose a bit of weight? But apparently, just the awareness of what you're actually eating starts to, in a way, affect your actions. So people might not even realize, but they might be eating less because they're journaling food. Interesting.
Yeah, that's the number one biggest thing, even not sort of weight loss related. The number one biggest thing to actually making a change into something is actually knowing where you're going wrong. So you can't change anything if you don't know where you're going wrong. So actually sort of understanding what you're eating, because it's very easy to go through your day, work gets a little bit busy, you just reach for a certain food that potentially isn't the best sort of food option for you. But if you're tracking your food and you sort of know exactly what you're eating, you can still eat that food and still see that weight loss or that result that you want. So
you mentioned something called the macronutrients, where you said maybe not having enough protein and such. So how important is that? Because with my coaching, what I talk about is the magic plate.
Yeah,
so this is similar to what you do. So the magic plate is split up into three parts of it, and the middle is the fats, so the good fats. All right. So the one part is like protein. So make sure you get the right amount of protein, like let's say 1/3 of your meal. Okay. And then the other third is like your greens. So something like your salad or your spinach or your broccoli or whatever. And then the other part could be, could be like something a bit more starchy. So a third of your plate could be something like potato or rice or something like that. So those are the macronutrients. There's carbohydrates, protein, and then fat in the middle, just that much. But obviously you could say that maybe looks like a certain diet, but not really. It's kind of like it's not really a diet. It's just normally if you have a roast chicken dinner, for example, you're going to be having protein, your potatoes, and your vegetables, right? So it's going to be kind of like a balanced meal. So what do you think about, or how do you give advice on the balance of those macronutrients?
Yeah, so I think most people, like the way that sort of our society works, and the way that sort of if you go out for a meal, generally your meal will be very heavy in carbs and fats. They're the two things which generally will be very heavy, and they're not bad, but it's the quantity again that in excess you gain weight, and the quantity of anything in excess you're going to be gaining weight, because at the end of the day, in terms of sort of losing weight, it's a calorie deficit. If you're in a calorie deficit, you will be losing weight. But when we sort of look at sort of like a little bit more detail into sort of protein, carbs, and fats, protein, obviously there's a huge amount of benefit with protein. For example, sort of satiety, you're going to be staying fuller for longer if you're actually eating an adequate protein intake. And it's called thermic effective feeding. So I don't know if you probably know about this. So thermic effective feeding is basically out of all three macronutrients. So you've got protein, carbs, and fats. Protein takes the most amount of energy for your body to digest. So if you're going to go over on one, it potentially makes more sense to be protein. But again, excess causes you to gain weight. So generally sort of a good rule of thumb is 2 to 2.5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, especially for people who are training to some degree and pushing themselves in the gym, because obviously that puts more of a demand on your body. More of demand needs more recovery.
Yeah, sure. So I love this idea of protein, because I think it's one of the macronutrients that we kind of don't get enough of to do exactly what you said, which is satiety, which is feeling full for longer. So you don't have to have a snack in between the breakfast and lunch. So I try and coach my clients to say, look, try, 4 to 5 hours at least before your next meal. So if you have a breakfast at 8, if you're a breakfast person, then try, not have anything until 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. And then from 1 o'clock till 6 o'clock. So you've got those massive gaps, but actually getting from one to the other can be quite tricky for someone. If they're not, for example, breakfast, traditionally, if you think about 50, 60 years ago, breakfasts were probably quite heavy on the protein, maybe even longer, let's say 100 years ago. I don't know. In Britain, and I've read certain things about eggs and meat, and then all of a sudden, kind of the shift in society has gone towards cereals. And so the cereal, you're taking more carbohydrates in and less protein, right? And so if you have like a big bowl of cereal, maybe like cinnamon squares or something.
They are good, cinnamon squares. Curiously cinnamon.
I love them. So I don't eat them anymore. But at about 10:30, you're like, I just need something else. So I believe it's a lack of protein in the mornings that are not going to get you through till 12 or 1 o'clock in a very happy way if you don't have enough protein in the morning. What's your thoughts on that?
Definitely. And I think a lot of people now, for like you were saying, for breakfast, they'll either have some sugary cereal, which isn't great, but it's okay. But from a perspective of sort of protein, if you look at most people's breakfast, they either grab some cereal or something, or toast or something before they leave the house, or they grab like a croissant on the way to work, or something, or coffee on the way to work, and a muffin or something. It's like next to no proper complete protein in that. So obviously from that perspective, from a perspective of sort of staying fuller for longer, yes, it makes sense to have some protein there. I'm quite a big believer in having smaller meals more frequently. So I'd suggest having meals sort of every 3 hours, not necessarily like a big meal, potentially a snack, just from the perspective of if you look at sort of the body and its sort of ability to absorb protein, having these smaller meals where you've got smaller servings of protein split up throughout the day. So obviously your body can only absorb X amount of complete protein in one meal. We can look at then spiking your leucine levels, so spiking your MPS, muscle protein synthesis, sort of a little bit more frequently. And sort of from a perspective of recovering, that's going to be great. From a perspective of actually staying fuller and not feeling like you have to reach for these sort of extra high carb, high sugar, high fat snacks, which are fine, but push you over your calories. It sort of makes sense, if that makes sense.
I bet your clients love you, George, because I've read a few of your posts like, hamburger, you can still have this hamburger. Like,
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in still eating all that stuff. Like, I still eat all that stuff, but I just make it fit into my daily calories, daily food targets. Because let's be honest, for most people, they want to lose some weight. They want to eat the foods they love. They want to be able to go to social events. They don't want to feel like they're eating out of Tupperware for the rest of their life and eating boring chicken and rice, plain old chicken and rice, where they don't need to do that. They just need to have a little bit sort of food targets and sort of targets to actually work towards each day.
Yeah. So I think, one thing doesn't fit all. And I'm sure you know this with your clients as well. It's like for one person, a certain way of eating might not suit another person. Some people, I'm not a morning person, or I don't eat breakfast, or whatever it is. And you do get some people who are like really hard on themselves, and they're quite disciplinarian on themselves, and they can really be strict on what they eat, and they can do that. But there's some other people kind of like don't have a lot of willpower in that area. So maybe we could talk about willpower quickly. So willpower is something that to me can be exhausted. So for example, if you're in, let's say you're working during the day and you have to use a lot of your willpower. By the end of the day, your willpower is like gone, man. You're like, just, I need a break. And I think what people fail to do in their days, their work days, is to actually pace themselves and also take breaks in between the stressful moments. So you can't be go all the time and never have a break, never stand up, take a breath, go walk outside, do whatever it is that you can do at your place of work, and then expect to be so disciplined about what you're eating as well. Because at some point you're going to be I just need a break. I don't want any kind of rules. Everything's gone. So willpower. What do you think about willpower? As in, is it something that we can just use all the time? And is it something that everyone has? Then they say, look, guys, don't eat that food. Just have the willpower. What's your thoughts on willpower?
I think willpower is very closely tied towards actually having a goal.
Yeah.
Because if you're just looking to lose a little bit of weight, great. But what is your actual goal? How much weight are you looking to lose? By what date? And if you've got that deadline, I did a post about this the other day. You may have seen it, but having a deadline about your goal is going to be you're going to be so much more motivated. You're going to have a lot more willpower because you've got X amount of weeks to lose X amount of weight or gain X amount of weight or whatever your goal is. You're going to feel a lot more motivated than just thinking, I want to lose a bit of weight, don't really care when. And then at the end of the day, then it just feels like you're dieting forever. Whereas if you've got that definite sort of target, you know exactly what you're doing. I think people will be, I know they are a lot more sort of motivated from that sort of perspective.
So like a definite target. Yeah, I put my clients on a 12-week program, which is 90 days. So it's not too short, not too long. And I think yours is similar. That you have some programs that are maybe 10 weeks or something.
Yeah. So obviously each client I work with, it depends. Some of them want to. Generally, with most, I'll do like a 6-week kickstart program where for 6 weeks we'll look at what their goal is, and we'll do that. Generally, sort of it falls into sort of like a fat loss category where generally we'll look at sort of putting off between 10 to 18 pounds in that 6-week period of time. So it's sort of like a kickstart intensive, and then from there we'll look at setting up a little bit sort of more structures in place for long-term success, because realistically you're not going to continually be able to lose that much weight week on week after sort of a short period of time. So we'll look at sort of setting up some structures to slow the rate of loss a little bit, but to make it so that they've got that sort of program and they know exactly what they're doing to set them up sort of long-term.
So I think just thinking about, because I'm just thinking about, I don't know, people like in a job like mine where I sit most of the day. Okay. So we're talking about calorie deficit here. You mentioned it earlier. So obviously it's the number one thing in a way. If you're eating too much and you're expending less, you're probably going to put on weight. So you're eating way too much, but you're not expelling that energy or those calories. So do you think that, like, I'm just thinking about you because you're a younger guy and perhaps you're more active because, you are more active because you're a coach. But let's just think about people who are in the younger years, probably a little bit more active than people like, let's say, in their later years. So you probably need less calories as you get older. We're just thinking about that. Do we need to be wary of slowing down the amount that we eat as we get older?
I think yes, to a degree, but obviously it depends. When we're talking about being a lot older, then yes, obviously yes, but your movement, you are moving less, and obviously with moving less, you're requiring less calories. You're putting less of a demand on your body. But if we're sort of talking about, regardless of sort of like age wise, even if obviously a lot older, yes, okay, but if you're still training hard, you're still putting a big demand on your body. You're still needing these calories to recover. But again, that's sort of the individuality of it, because you're going to be eating different calories to me. Well, how many calories do you eat a day, roughly?
I don't count the calories. That's the thing. But it would be interesting to find out. I probably eat about 2,000 a day, roughly.
Yeah.
But I know some guys are doing like 3,000 or 4,000. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm looking at building my weight up a little bit more. Yeah. I'm doing about 6 to 7 at the minute.
Really?
Yeah. So like,
I just couldn't eat that much, honestly. Even if I tried, I'd be like, I just can't do it.
Yeah, no, it's tough. But what I'm sort of, the point that I'm trying to get at there is the fact that we're obviously completely different sort of intake there with food.
Yeah. So now let's talk about maybe some. You said you got the 10 steps to weight loss. You probably mentioned
success. Yeah.
So you probably mentioned a few of them, right? Which is probably calorie deficit. What was some of the other? Just maybe give us one or two other ones that are.
Yeah, of course. So 10 steps to fat loss success is a free download that you can download literally on my social medias, or you can drop me a message and I'll send you it. But it's literally sort of a document that lays out those 10 steps to fat loss success, which you can follow to predictably sort of see fat loss results. One of the sort of main ones is that protein, because like we touched upon, is in terms of sort of satiety and actually being sort of full whilst you're dieting. I'm a big sort of advocate that depends how lean you're getting. Obviously, if you're getting a lot leaner, sort of stage lean, then yes, you're going to start to feel hungry when you're dieting. But for the most part, you don't necessarily, if you're just looking at losing a bit of weight, you don't necessarily need to feel massively hungry when you're dieting, but you just need some sort of guidelines to follow.
Okay. Yeah. So the protein, what else? What's the next step?
The next step. How about I just pull this document up? One sec.
I'm going to put I'll put your page in the comments here. Let's have a look. So for the listeners who will be watching this on Facebook a bit later, you can see in the chat window link to George's Facebook page. If you're listening on Podbean or the podcast, obviously you won't see any of this, but all good.
Yeah, I'll just pull it up now, and then I can just run through them.
Yeah, I can share the screen as well if you want.
Oh, nice, cool. If this loads up.
Trusty old computers.
The internet is very temperamental today.
So we should also talk about later on is about, maybe it's on your 10 steps, but like movement and how we can incorporate some of that even in no gym. Because obviously there's no gyms at the moment, is there? I think until
tomorrow.
Okay. So some people kind of feel lost without gyms, don't they? They're like, what do I do? Just they don't have an idea of what to do without the barbells and the running machines and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, we'll definitely touch upon that. Let me just share my screen and I can just share my screen. Does that work?
Not yet. Hold on. There it is. I want to put
that. Cool. Okay, so it's 10 steps to fat loss success. I can share sort of a few of them with you. So high protein diet. So like we mentioned, obviously about staying full. 2 to 2.5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. So again, just some sort of list a few examples, sort of like what an example, say you're weighing 70 kilos. So you'd aim for that 140 to 175 grams of protein a day. That could look something along those lines. Especially with protein as well, there's sort of like two sort of types of protein. You've got trace protein, then you've got complete protein. So trace protein is protein from things like your carbohydrates, so like oats, potato, not massively sort of dense in protein, but complete protein is things like tuna, dairy, fish, things along those lines, which have that full sort of complete essential amino acid sort of spectrum. That formatting's gone a little bit weird. So basically stock up. This is a problem I have with Google Docs. So obviously when I download it into a PDF and then I just send it to whoever downloads it and it works perfectly. But Google Docs just messes up the formatting massively. So stock up calories basically. So the sort of premise of that is people, obviously, if they go out later on in the day in the sort of weekend, a really good strategy to use is save 100 calories each day of the week. So Monday through to Saturday. And then on Sunday, you've got 600 extra calories to eat. So for example, if you ate 2,000 calories a day, you could then eat 1,900 Monday to Saturday. And then you've got 600 extra calories on Sunday. So you can have a little bit more sort of flexibility with the foods that you're eating.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's good. So then they can feel bad about having like a dessert on Sunday or something like that.
Yes. So exactly. So it gives you a lot more sort of flexibility with the sort of foods that you want to eat. Because like we mentioned, you can still eat the foods you love, but it just needs some sort of structure in place. So I'll share one more. So move more. Again, sort of like a massive one. So a really easy way. Most people think that they don't have time to do cardio, which you don't need to lose weight as long as you're eating in that calorie deficit, but it just allows you to eat a little bit more food. But an easy way is just to walk. So it's a form of NEAT. So it's basically something that you're going to be burning calories from that isn't massively strenuous, and it's not sort of from sort of the daily functions of your body throughout the day. So for example, 1,000 calories, you're going to be looking at burning 1,000 steps, you're going to be looking at burning about 40 calories. So it's a really easy way to sort of build up the calories that you burn in the day so you can eat a little bit more. Great for the mindset, great for digestion, great for sort of just getting some appetite back as well.
So what do you think about, like, sometimes when you go for a run, like I got the Strava app now and I went running and then they're like, you've burned 80 calories or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
80 calories, I could eat that in like, you know, one banana or something. You think, you know, well, how does that actually work? But actually there's something more going on behind the burning of those 80 calories, isn't there?
Yes. Yeah. So the thing with those so whatever sort of like the fitness trackers and stuff is they're like calorie wise, they're never accurate. I just don't see how they are. But for like steps and sort of other sort of metrics, I think they're great. But calories, like for example, I used to have a Fitbit. I got an Aura Ring now. I used to have a Fitbit. The Fitbit used to do a weight session. Yes, admittedly, I'd burn a fair few calories, but it used to say in sort of like an hour and a half, I'd burn nearly 1,000 calories.
Really?
Which it's just not right.
Yeah. Take it with a pinch of salt. And I suppose during the day, even though you're sitting down and you're using your brain, you're still burning calories at a time, aren't you?
Yeah, so that's your sort of basic metabolic rate. So obviously it varies from person to person, but if you sort of look at what you'd burn without having without doing anything strenuous, everyone's going to have a certain amount of calories that they're going to naturally burn.
So like, I think people always said to me, Clint, you must have a high metabolism. And I think that's something that's been, we've been told, or at least that's something we learned about this high metabolism thing, because I don't put on weight easily. So I can seemingly eat what I want, but actually I probably don't eat that many calories. That's probably why I don't put on weight. But I think also I have been pretty active during most of my life. So I used to surf 10, 12 years. I surfed. When I came to England, that was the first time I stopped doing exercise. So from about 2010 to about 2017, I wasn't doing much. Maybe I went for a run every now and then. But then I think what's helped, and you tell me if this is true or not, I think that muscle mass actually does help you to burn more calories at rest.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can people improve their muscle mass and muscle strength? What's your way?
Yeah. So the main sort of principle is actually having a program for you to follow, but a program that you can progressively overload, because it's great going into the gym, it's great doing a session, but if you're going in lifting the same weight for the same number of reps week on week, you're not progressively overloading, you're not progressively putting a new stimulus or a new load or a new amount of volume under your muscle, because volume is one of the biggest drivers of hypertrophy, and hypertrophy ultimately is gaining muscle. And sort of strength and hypertrophy are sort of like a vice versa. If you're building muscle, you're going to be getting stronger. Building strength, you're going to be building muscle. So actually sort of progressively overloading, looking at getting stronger and actually tracking the weights that they use, the reps that they achieve, and looking at progressing that.
But so what's important here is to know, is the listeners, is that if you're a female listening and you think, well, I don't want to be all musty like a bodybuilder, we're not talking about looking like a bodybuilder here. All we're talking about is increasing muscle strength, really. So muscle strength. And I was listening to this Gabrielle Lyons, and she talks about muscle strength is one of the best ways to avoid all-cause mortality. So if you have good muscle strength within your body, so you're doing a lot of resistance training, even though you might not look like Mr. Olympia or Mrs. Universe or whatever it is, you still have a better overall muscle strength within your body. It prevents you from having like chronic diseases. So you actually be in better shape against getting chronic diseases if your muscle strength is increased. So I think it's important for listeners to know that it's essential to eat the right amount of protein. This is my view. Okay, so you eat, and I agree with you on the protein thing. So it's getting the right amount of protein, but also putting your muscles under strain on a daily basis, not so that you can look like Hulk, but so that you can increase muscle strength and keep that muscle strength for as long as you can into your old age. Yeah,
I think it's important to note as well that to look like these bodybuilders, it takes a hell of a lot of time and a hell of a lot of work. And just because you're going in the gym, you're lifting weights, you're progressively getting stronger, you're not going to look really bulky if that's not something that you don't want to look like. You still need to train hard to be building muscle, even if you want to quote unquote tone up a little bit. You still need to be progressing your lifts in the gym and lifting weights if you want to be looking like you have more muscle. But to the degree that the bodybuilders look, it takes a hell of a lot of time and a hell of a lot of sort of work, and it's not something that's going to happen ridiculously quickly. It takes years, so it's not something that you should be sort of worried of.
Yeah, so I think that does take, like you say, it's going to take a lot more effort to really look muscular, like really muscular. So I don't think people should be afraid of that when we talk about gaining muscle and putting your body under resistance. So that's it's definitely a powerful thing. So at the moment, okay, this is my routine. So what I do, and a lot of people, I suppose a lot of people might relate to this, because now we're working from home. We've got all the comforts of home happening here. The fridge is just downstairs, get a snack when you want type thing. Well, actually going up and down the stairs is probably pretty good, right? Bit of movement.
Yeah, it's good for the steps.
So at lunchtime, I do force myself, like, even though I don't feel like it every day, I do some kind of movement, but it's actually become a habit. So my encouragement for the listeners is that start getting into some kind of routine, right? So where it's like, this is what you do when you come down the stairs at 12 o'clock and you step into that lounge, or you step into your conservatory, or you step outside. That's when you do your exercise, so that it almost becomes second nature to do it instead of, so it's almost like a trigger. So
yeah, massively. I'm a massive believer in that as well. And I think one of the main sort of problems people faced is when gyms shut, they potentially were in a really good sort of position. They were training well, and then gyms shut, and then it got difficult. They found it hard training at home. But just sort of adopting the same routine that you had before your gym, where you'd potentially have a meal, you'd then walk to the gym, and you'd get going with your session. The same sort of thing. Have a meal, go for a walk, and then just come back home and work out at home. But having that sort of trigger where you can sort of separate things and go from I'm working at home to I'm now training at home. This is my hour. This is my slot. Is really important.
So what I've done recently, is I got some of these there, boys. Yeah.
Nice. What weights do you have? What varies? 16.
Well, I got a 4, which is pretty light. I got a 6, I got an 8, and then I got a
16,
12 and a 16.
Nice.
So I'll swing this one. It's quite nice for me. You probably like light as a feather for you. But so I was swinging it yesterday, and that was good. And there's I can't remember all the names of the moves. I'm just terrible with the names of them. I should really memorize them. But there's a certain move where you kind of like get down on the floor and you pick it up and you kind of keep it up straight and you're going
Turkish
down.
get up. Is that the one you're talking about?
Say it again.
Turkish get up or just get up?
Yeah. Turkish get up.
Yeah.
I've been doing that one. It was quite nice for your core and your obliques.
Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah, it's quite tough. Depending on the weight you use as well. And then I saw this. I thought, you know what? I've been doing my abs, but following a bit of Chris Herrier, or whatever his name is, that guy from Thenex.
Okay.
So I've been doing some of his. He's actually got some good chest workouts from home, so you don't need any weights or anything. And I'll tell you what, I've never been have been sore like that from gym workouts with barbells. But I followed his workout, and I was totally like sore on my chest.
There's nothing quite like chest DOMs. I don't know what it is, but nothing else, like no other muscle sort of compares.
Yeah. Well, I love
nice feeling sore on the chest.
And then shoulders are really hard to get, sore as well.
Do you have bands or you got your kettlebells? So you can do your lateral raises, which for most people for like posture and just sort of if you're looking at making your shoulders look bigger, they're a go-to. Yeah,
I'm also doing some. I think a lot of people probably can't do this, which is the handstand push-up. So I do it against the wall.
Can you do those?
Yeah, I can do them, but
do you want to do as a demo?
Yeah, I can't. But I would if I had like a camera to turn around. I should get some.
I'll check.
Follow me. No, but I've got these outside. I've got these like big planks, and what I do is it's much harder when you've got the planks, and so I'm basically doing a handstand now. But you've got planks, and you go beyond the floor. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Normally, if I was doing it on the floor, I'd be stopping there.
But you've got that extra range,
and I can do 10 there, right? And then if I use those planks, it's like 3 or 4.
Yeah, tough. Very tough.
And I'm done. All right, so let's recap then for the listeners. So I think we've spoken about a good few things here today. Maybe there's 1 or 2 things we could just touch on, some new stuff we can touch on. Let's talk about, before we talk about diets, let me just recap. So we talk about movements. Definitely move more if you can. Stand up, go down to the kitchen, get yourself a drink, or even stand up out of your chair if you're an office worker, and then try to get yourself into a routine of either 3 or 4 times a week. If not daily, then do something just, even if it's just an ab workout or just something you follow on YouTube. I'm a big believer in just searching something in YouTube, like body workouts at home, no weights required, and do something, right? So just get active and do something. And then the protein is really important as well. Make sure that you get enough protein in every meal to push you through into the next meal so that you don't keep staying hungry. So that's excellent. Now, which takes us on to diets. Okay, so let's just touch on diets and then we'll wrap it up. So I've been tempted to try the keto diet, but I kind of find that I'm okay with carbs. And actually, yesterday I ordered a glucose meter. So I'm going to start to track and put my little stats on Facebook and what my glucose levels are doing after certain meals. Because I'm really interested to see how my body does react. I've actually had tests with the doctors quite recently, 3 or 4, because just to check my cholesterol levels because they're quite high. But I think my cholesterol levels are quite high because I eat a lot of fatty food. So I'll have like ribeye steak and I'll eat all the fat on that, right? And I'll have like pork belly and I'll eat all the fat on that. So I eat a lot of protein and fat. But for your clients, do you suggest certain diets, or is it just get your macronutrients balanced? What's your
I think for most people, obviously, if a client sort of favors a certain diet, then awesome, we'll go with that. But for most people looking to lose weight, they're already potentially overwhelmed by the situation at first. So I'll obviously simplify that situation for them, show them exactly what they need to be doing. But all these sort of extra diets where you're cutting out certain food groups just overcomplicate it. And if the goal is just that weight loss, then all that diet's going to do is put you in a calorie deficit. Obviously, yes, there's going to be health benefits to some, but if the goal is just weight loss, then just tracking or eating to food sort of guidelines is the best bet, because they can still eat the foods they love. They can still go out for meals. They don't have to feel restricted. They can stock up their calories for the weekend, sort of if they need to, and they can actually enjoy it throughout the process.
So one thing though, which just reminds me, I watched something on Netflix. And I can't remember what it was, but they were talking about this guy. He was a professional swimmer. So he was like, I don't know, 20, 22 years old. So really active, but then eating the crappiest food you can imagine. So pizzas and burgers and this and that. And obviously he's not putting on weight because he's expending so much energy, so that his calorie deficit is okay, right? So he's eating, but it's not really that healthy for you. So there is this balance to be struck, I feel, of what are you actually putting into your body? Does it give you energy? And this is one thing I coach my clients through is kind of like the energy experiment. So you're really becoming aware of whatever you're putting into your body, how it makes you feel an hour later or a few hours later. So I'm not someone who promotes certain diets as well, just by the way. So I'm pretty much the same as you. It's like, find out what you feel gives you energy. If that food is a good food for you, even if it is pizza or whatever it is for you, if you feel good an hour later and 2 hours later, then go for it. But you want to become aware, have this body awareness of what you're putting into your body and how it makes you feel afterwards. Yeah. So
massively, really agree with that.
Yeah. Well, George, it's been great chatting. We on the Facebook page here, and for the listeners on the podcast, catching up later. Excellent. And George, did you put I've got a link to your Facebook page here, and if people want to just like your page or whatever, and also just tell us where else they can get hold of you.
So they can get hold of me on Instagram. You can send me a message on Instagram if you want, or I've got all my links in my bio. If you want to grab that 10 steps to fat loss success, you can download that in on my bio. Send me a message, I'll send you it. Or if you just want to connect, then feel free to shoot me a message and we can have a chat.
What's your website?
Website is www.gocoaching.net.
.net.
Yeah.
I'll just put it in the chat here.
Cool, perfect. Thank you.
So, what's it like for you at the minute with the lockdown? How's it been? It's
been good. It's been good. So obviously, clients transitioned from gym-based workouts to home-based workouts. So we got them set up with what equipment they had, or we got them hold of some equipment if they needed it. But obviously, gyms now opening in the UK from tomorrow, and they're open in all tiers, so 1, 2, and 3, which is awesome. So hopefully, hopefully though, they stay open for the sort of foreseeable future now, which will be really good.
So from a perspective of you actually I just want to get the feeling from you as a personal trainer, how it's affected your business, or have you guys survived? If you've been clever enough.
So so obviously I've got my sort of like face-to-face coaching program, and then I've got my online-based coaching program, and which clients have just transitioned into, and it's worked really, really well. Or if clients sort of still wanted that sort of closer sort of me actually their video with them throughout their sessions, instead of sort of having me there to check in with them once a week, or more than once a week if they need. We've been doing a few Zoom sessions, FaceTime sessions, which again have been working really well. But the sort of main thing is people need accountability. People need to know. People want that sort of blueprint of what they need to know. So it sort of doesn't change that I can still provide that, and clients can still see results, really good results over lockdown.
Good stuff. George, it's been great talking to you, and I hope everything goes well over the next few months, and that Corona goes away, and we can all return back to some kind of normal existence.
Mate, definitely, it'll be because it's been going on for how long? 9 months.
Yeah, roughly like March is when we really shut down. So
had a hell of a long time.
Yeah, and I'm hoping like March next year it's just gone, and then that's it. No second wave again. No.
You're gonna go on holiday finally. Yeah, where have you got anywhere planned?
Well, we I think a lot of people during lockdown have well, from what I've seen, gone camping, right? So we bought a whole lot of camping gear. We got a massive 12-man tent, and we've been up twice this year camping. So we think about next year go to the Isle of Wight, and then we might to Cornwall as well in the summer. So that's going to be really good. Then I'm going to have to make sure I'm looking good and buff to show off that beach body.
It's got to be done, especially if it's nice and sunny, which I don't know what it'll be like in the UK, but
yeah, we had a good spring and summer this year. I don't think
we did. To be fair, we can't complain about that.
I was tanned, bro. Honestly,
Wait,
yeah, bro, I was out all the time in freaking April, May.
You probably tan quite easily though.
Probably, yeah.
I'm a quarter Irish, so don't really tan.
All right, buddy. It's been great talking to you.
Great.
Thanks for being on the LifeShot podcast. Myself, Clint Grove, and George O'Farrell signing out. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.